When a guest walks into the Dr. Phil studio carrying a mysterious box, no one expects that what's inside will completely shatter an entire family's world. The cameras are rolling, the audience is settled, and Dr. Phil is ready for what he thinks will be another complex family dispute. But sometimes, truth arrives in the most unexpected packages. And when that box opens, everything freezes. Dr. Phil has been doing this for over 3 decades. He's seen tears, rage, denial, and breakthrough moments that have changed lives. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what was about to unfold on this particular afternoon. The guest, a woman named Rebecca, had reached out to the show weeks earlier with a story that seemed almost too devastating to be true. Her message was simple but haunting. I have proof that will destroy my family, but they need to know the truth. The production team had done their due diligence, background checks, preliminary interviews, verification of her claims, as much as they could without spoiling the reveal. Everything pointed to a story that would be emotionally charged, yes, but they had no idea just how far it would go. Rebecca had been adamant about one thing. She would bring physical evidence. She would bring the box. And she would not open it until she was sitting across from Dr. Phil with her family present and the cameras capturing every single moment. But what no one in that studio, not even Dr. Phil himself, could anticipate was that the contents of that box would force him to do something he rarely does: stop everything. The morning of the taping, Rebecca arrived early with a worn cardboard box, security X-rated. Papers, photographs, envelopes, nothing dangerous. They let her through. Backstage, Rebecca clutched the box on her lap, her breathing steady but deliberate. 23 years of carrying this secret. In less than an hour, everything would change. On stage, Dr. Phil scanned his notes. Guest brings physical evidence. Box of documents. He paused. Something about this felt different. He made a mental note to stay flexible. The audience filed in. The lights came up, the cameras rolled. Dr. Phil walked onto the stage to thunderous applause, his signature, confident stride carrying him to his chair. He smiled, waved, and then settled in. Today, he began, we have a story that involves family secrets, hidden truths, and a woman who says she has evidence that will change everything. Please welcome Rebecca. Rebecca walked onto the stage, carrying the box. The audience noticed it immediately. Murmurs rippled through the rows. Dr. Phil's eyes locked onto it. She sat down carefully, placing the box on the glass coffee table between them, her hands resting protectively on top of it. Dr. Phil leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but probing. Rebecca, thank you for being here.
I understand you've been carrying something with you for a very long time. She nodded, her lips pressed together, fighting to keep her composure. I have, Dr. Phil, and it's in this box. Dr. Phil glanced at the box, then back at her. Before we get to that, help me understand what brought you here today. What is it that you need to say? Rebecca took a deep breath. Her voice was steady, but there was a tremor underneath, like a fault line about to shift. 23 years ago, my father died. Or at least that's what we were told. My mother said he had a heart attack, that it was sudden, that we should just move on. We were young, my brother and I. We believed her. We grieved. We moved on. But I never felt right about it. There were too many things that didn't add up. Dr. Phil nodded slowly, his face unreadable. What kind of things? Rebecca's hands tightened on the box. My mother refused to talk about him. She packed up everything, every photo, every document, every trace of him, and she locked it away. She told us it was too painful, but it wasn't grief, Dr. Phil. It was guilt. The audience was silent now, leaning forward in their seats. Dr. Phil's expression shifted slightly. his instincts telling him this was about to go somewhere he hadn't expected. 3 years ago, Rebecca continued, my mother passed away, and when we were cleaning out her house, I found this box hidden in the back of her closet under old blankets pushed so far back you'd never see it unless you were looking. Inside were things she never wanted us to see. Dr. Phil's gaze moved to the box again. And what's inside, Rebecca? She hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. The truth. Subscribe and leave a comment because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil leaned back slightly, giving her space but keeping his focus locked on her. Rebecca, I need you to help me understand. You said your mother told you your father died of a heart attack. Are you saying that's not true? Rebecca shook her head. No, Dr. Phil. He didn't die of a heart attack. He didn't die at all. The words hung in the air like a grenade that hadn't exploded yet. The audience gasped audibly. Even Dr. Phil, who had heard thousands of confessions, looked momentarily stunned. I'm sorry, what? He said, his voice measured, but with an edge of disbelief. Rebecca reached for the box, her hands trembling now. My father is alive. He's been alive this entire time. My mother lied to us. She told us he was dead because she wanted to erase him from our lives. And this box, everything in here, it proves it. Dr. Phil stared at her, processing. Then he looked at the box, then back at her. Rebecca, that's an extraordinary claim. I need you to walk me through this. What exactly is in that box?
Before I show you, I need to tell you something else. My brother doesn't know. He's here today. He's backstage, and he has no idea what I'm about to reveal. Dr. Phil's eyes widened slightly. He turned to the producer off camera. Her brother's here. The producer nodded. Dr. Phil turned back to Rebecca. Does he know you're going to tell him this today? She shook her head. No, but he needs to know. We both need to know the truth, and I need you to help me tell him. Dr. Phil sat back in his chair, his mind clearly working through the implications. This was no longer just a reveal. This was an intervention. This was a family about to be torn apart or put back together. And it was all going to happen live on his stage. He made a decision. Okay, before we bring him out, I need to see what's in that box. I need to understand what we're dealing with here. Rebecca nodded and slowly lifted the lid. Inside were stacks of old photographs, letters with foreign postmarks, legal documents, and right on top, a DNA test result envelope. Dr. Phil leaned forward, his eyes scanning the contents. He reached in and carefully pulled out one of the photographs. It showed a man, mid-50s, standing in front of what looked like a small house, smiling at the camera. The timestamp on the photo read 2018, 7 years ago. Dr. Phil looked up at Rebecca. Who is this? Her voice cracked. That's my father. That photo was taken 7 years after he supposedly died. Dr. Phil set the photo down and reached for one of the letters. It was addressed to Rebecca's mother, postmarked from a small town in Oregon, dated 15 years ago. He didn't read it aloud, but his face said everything. He put it back in the box and looked directly at Rebecca. How did you find him? She wiped her eyes. I hired a private investigator. It took 2 years, but we found him. He's been living under a different name in Oregon this whole time, and he had no idea we thought he was dead. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. He stood up, something he rarely does in the middle of a segment. He turned to the camera, then to the audience, then back to Rebecca. Hold on, he said, his voice quiet but commanding. Stop the tape. The director in the control room hesitated for a moment, then signaled to cut. The cameras kept rolling in standby mode, but Dr. Phil had effectively paused everything. He walked over to Rebecca, crouched down beside her chair, and spoke to her in a voice too low for the microphones to pick up clearly. The audience watched in stunned silence. This was not part of the script. This was real. After a moment, Dr. Phil stood back up, walked to the edge of the stage, and called over the senior producer. They spoke briefly, urgently. Then Dr. Phil turned back to Rebecca. I've been ready for 3 years, Dr. Phil. He deserves to know. Dr. Phil took a breath, nodded, and then turned to the audience. What you're witnessing right now is not something we planned. This is real. This is raw. And this family is about to go through something that very few people ever experience. I'm asking all of you to hold this space with respect and compassion. The audience, many of them already in tears, nodded silently. Dr. Phil walked back to his chair, sat down, and signaled to the producer, "Bring him out." A moment later, a man in his early 40s walked onto the stage. His name was Michael. He looked confused, glancing between Dr. Phil and his sister, his eyes landing on the open box. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice uncertain. Dr. Phil gestured to the empty seat next to Rebecca. "Michael, please sit down. Your sister has something she needs to tell you, and I'm going to be here to help both of you through it." Michael sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving Rebecca. "Becca, what is this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca turned to face him fully, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, I need you to listen to me. What I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but I need you to trust me. I have proof. It's all right here." She gestured to the box. Michael's face hardened slightly, defensive. "Proof of what?" Rebecca reached into the box and pulled out the photograph of their father. She handed it to Michael. "Dad didn't die, Michael. Mom lied to us. He's alive." Michael stared at the photo. His hands started to shake. He looked up at Rebecca, then at Dr. Phil, then back at the photo. "What are you talking about? This is some kind of joke, right?" His voice was rising now, panic creeping in. Dr. Phil leaned forward, his voice calm and grounding. "Michael, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to take a breath. Your sister is telling you the truth, and we're going to walk through this together." Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He stood up again, walked over to the box, and pulled out the DNA test envelope. He held it up so Michael could see it. "Michael, your sister had a DNA test done. She found your father, and these results confirm it. He's alive. He's been alive this entire time." Michael's face went pale. He looked like he was going to be sick. "Where is he?" he asked, his voice breaking. Rebecca reached for his hand. "Oregon. I've been in contact with him for 6 months. He wants to meet you, Michael. He never knew we thought he was dead. Mom told him we didn't want anything to do with him. She lied to all of us." Michael pulled his hand away, standing up abruptly. No, I can't. I don't." He started pacing, his hands on his head, trying to process what he was hearing. Dr. Phil stood and walked over to him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "Michael, I need you to sit back down. I know this feels like your entire world just collapsed, but running from it won't change the truth. And your sister didn't bring you here to hurt you. She brought you here because she loves you, and she knew you needed to know." Michael looked at Dr. Phil, his eyes filled with confusion, anger, and grief all at once. "How could she do this to us?" he asked, his voice breaking. "How could Mom lie about something like this?" Dr. Phil's voice was firm but compassionate. "I don't know, Michael, but we're going to figure it out, and you're not going to do it alone." Slowly, Michael sat back down, his head in his hands. Rebecca moved closer to him, wrapping her arm around his shoulders. They sat there together in silence, the weight of the truth settling over them like a heavy blanket. Dr. Phil returned to his chair, giving them a moment. Then he spoke, his voice measured and deliberate. "Rebecca, Michael, I want both of you to look at me." They both looked up.
What your mother did was a profound betrayal. There's no other word for it. But here's what I know. You two are sitting here together. You found each other. And now you have the chance to find your father. That's not the ending your mother wrote. That's the beginning you get to write. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a card. I'm connecting you both with a family therapist who specializes in reunification trauma. You're going to need support through this, and I'm personally going to make sure you get it. He handed the card to Rebecca, then looked directly at Michael. Your father is waiting to hear from you. When you're ready, we'll help facilitate that meeting. But only when you're ready. Michael nodded slowly, unable to speak. Rebecca squeezed his hand. But what happened next is something no one in the room or watching at home saw coming. Dr. Phil stood one final time and walked to the edge of the stage. I want to tell you something, he said, his voice breaking slightly. In 30 years of doing this, I've never seen a family torn apart like this and then given a chance to rebuild. That box, he pointed to it, that box was supposed to destroy you, but instead it freed you. That's the power of truth, even when it hurts. The audience stood and parted, many wiping tears from their faces. Rebecca and Michael stood together holding each other as the weight of the decades finally lifted. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. 3 months later, Dr. Phil received a letter. Inside was a photo. Rebecca, Michael, and their father standing together for the first time in 23 years. On the back, someone had written, "Thank you for helping us find our way home." Dr. Phil kept that photo in his office because some truths are too powerful to stay buried, and some families are too strong to stay broken.